I'll find the light, I'll find a way, lift up my head at the end of the day. I'll be alright, I'll be okay. I was born to be great.
Welcome to How's the Head podcast. We are finally here with our first episode. Super excited. Today's episode, we're just going to kind of touch on me, my story, my background, and why I've kind of gotten into the podcast world and what my plan is. And I suppose I've had an unusual life. And we're going to dive into it today. I have my co-host here with me, Jack Shannon. What's the crack, Jack?
What's up, guys? Excited. Obviously, long time coming. But I think we went through the process as we should have.
Yeah.
Life happens.
Yeah.
And we're here now. So yeah, I suppose first podcast we're diving into you. So
100%. Yeah.
we start obviously at the start. Like childhood is the start. Most trauma is created in childhood. So give me a breakdown, I suppose, of like your first couple of years.
Yeah, well, I suppose to kick it off for the listener, my life entails a lot of addiction from my own to obviously living with addiction as a child. I've lost a lot of friends. I've now came out of addiction, and there's been a lot of street activity. But also I've gotten an education. I'm now working with kids, so we're gonna kind of go from start to finish and
Full circle.
how I've managed to do that. Yeah. So I suppose to kick it off, I grew up in a very intense house.
What do you mean by that?
And intense. My father was an alcoholic. My mum was a wild woman. And together it was toxic and it was heavy and it was a lot of arguing, a lot of violence, a lot of addiction. A lot of heavy intense moments. Now my mom now kind of lives a different life. She's a psychic medium,
Yeah,
a clairvoyant. Is that what some would call it? So
I know your mum. She's definitely not the woman you portray in that
Yeah,
image. To
yeah.
me, obviously, I only know her. Like, the last
she's
couple of
off
years.
healing people in her own way. And my dad is he's in recovery 25 years, so he's 25 years sober, and he's totally changed his life around also, and has been kind of an inspiration to me to do it as well. So
Full circle.
I suppose when I'm talking about them negatively, it's not really supposed to be that negative.
Yeah, like you're not.
Yeah,
you're not
it's
putting
just-
down on them. Like
it's just a story as the story is really, like. So
it's your story.
so I suppose we my dad was an alcoholic. A lot of arguments, a lot of fighting, and would have been very intense, a lot of the time. Even when there wasn't arguments, you were always worrying when one would kick off, or
Living in that fear, like
and things would have gotten intense. We'd just I'd have been taken out of the house a lot, and we'd have stayed in hostels and things like that. I remember stuff like that, and I've been taken out of the house to stay different places. Or if my dad collected me from school, I would you'd spend a day in the pub, you know what I mean? And one or two times he's forgotten me, my ma would have to come.
in the pub, like
He'd leave in the pub
Okay,
at home,
yeah.
and then my ma they'd ring, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then also, like, I suppose more intense story, a story that you kind of mentioned to me because you know it, but one I went through my therapist with was I was about 4 or 5 years of age.
I say I love this. This
Yeah,
is,
I know what you
it's
mean,
terrible
yeah.
to say I love your
Yeah.
trauma. Like, but,
No, it's an insight, isn't it? It is definitely an insight. So I was at home. My mum and dad were fucking in the kitchen. They were flinging plates at each other. The plates were smashing off the walls, and I was about 4 or 5. I was on the ground, and I was playing with my toy cars, and I had a roll of toilet roll, and it was like laid out and broken
Like
into
a racetrack
streets,
type thing,
and I was like, and I just remember looking up, watching the plates go over my head, and I was pretending that they were UFOs, and the cars were all fucking driving away, and
In that childhood, like
Yeah,
create
just
fantasy world.
well,
Yeah.
one thing I never lacked was creativity and
Yeah, yeah, that's
imagination,
true,
you know.
yeah.
So, but yeah, that was something I spoke about with my therapist, like only more recently, like, and she was kind of saying to me, "Yeah, that's a wild story." She's like, the maddest bit about that is like how a child so young was calm in that
In
kind of
that
surroundings,
energy,
which
yeah.
kind of was like kind of a telltale sign to how intense the house was at times. I suppose the biggest effect it had on me was like my education. My education would suffer, you know. You'd be up late nights, whether it be arguments or sometimes actually my dad just come home from the pub and he'd wake me up and we'd watch Lion King together. And so even kind of the night bits are a bit traumatic or had an effect even when it was good, I suppose. But yeah, would have struggled a lot with reading and writing. Would have felt stupid, would have been very insecure about it. And in school as well, like, I mean, when I was going to school, like, there wasn't loads of multinationals or multicultural. It was like, I was me and
You were the
another guy were the two brown kids. And, you know, to be like, I would have got called nigger and stuff on the way to school and stuff like that, and actually experienced racism. So it was already kind of intense or whatever, or for its own way. But that like wouldn't have like scarred me in any shape or form. It was just kind of the circumstances. But yeah, the kind of the lack of
your education was like suffering.
yeah, my education was suffering. I was struggling to read and write. It was giving me high anxiety and low kind of fucking low self esteem, and so yeah, I kind of like my friends would read me bits of the reader, and I would memorize it, and I would be able to follow it. I couldn't like not read at all. Definitely couldn't read it all out loud. Would totally panic, and the lads would read me the reader.
Yeah, you were compensating by like pre-reading so that like
because I could memorize things.
Yeah, and then in class, if you got called upon, like, you'd be able to throw.
Yeah, I would follow it. Yeah, the right way through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was it, and then I suppose the big change was when I was switching schools to go into secondary school. I kind of, at that last day of the year when like all kids were, I remember them all running out, it was a massive hot day, but like I was just had anxiety. I was like, no, I knew what was coming at that little
you were
stage.
going to be the bottom of the pond instead of being the top. Primary to secondary is a big switch.
And like I knew that, or I thought that, like new teachers more intelligent because the school was like harder working. That was my logic, so they wouldn't fall for my tricks. They would notice them. I decided to spend that summer learning how to read, and one day a family friend who became my best friend later, who we'll talk about, I'm just going to call him Taz for now. This is a lovely story about him, but if I want to tell other ones later, I might, you know what I mean? So he just came over to me and he was like, "What's up? What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just reading." And I was reading a book called The Great Expectations, which is a novel about a child rescuing a criminal and giving him like a second chance at life. Okay. And then the criminal comes back later in life and helps him. You know what I mean? So that was what was happening. That was actually what was happening. You know what I mean? Which is weird. I always found that weird. I didn't realise that until later in life. But yeah, basically the information he gave me was that your brain is like your bicep or a muscle. It's like you go to the gym, you can't just lift the heaviest weight, and this book is like a heavy book, so you have to go read lighter stuff. Yeah. He went and got me a book called The Rose That Grew From Concrete, which is a poetry book, which Tupac wrote between the age of 16 and 22, I believe, which that was like, I got so embedded in that. I already loved hip hop.
That's a huge reference in your story as your friend. That's a pivot. I think that's a pivot.
Because it changed, like, because of how quickly it worked, it changed my whole thought pattern on me learning and me being stupid and things like that. So it was like it's a colossal moment. It's like so big. So yeah, then I went into first year, much more confident, and was just kind of getting stronger and stronger educationally.
You were excelling because your confidence.
Yeah. So like would have got awards in school, but also would have gotten a little bit of trouble for messing, but never nothing real bold. Kind of like I've been suspended a few times, mostly for my haircuts and my fashion and being a rebel. Never really for anything too bad, like, you know what I mean. A lot of this time now, I would have been like, you know, still heavily suicidal and things like that, and would have been probably quiet, not really very aggressive, would have been a joker. At the age of 16, 15, 16, 16, just gone 16. Just gone 16. It was January. Um, I I was attacked. Someone stabbed me, and that was another colossal change in my personality.
Because you've been the softy, like, to an
Yeah,
extent.
well, it would have been a peacemaker, just like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
friends with everyone. I would have probably been listening to a lot of different types of music at this point, and also because of the way my education worked out, I went to fourth year, but I done really well in my junior cert. I skipped fourth year and went to fifth year. But halfway during fifth year, there was talks of colleges looking at me, um, because of my art mark in school, and so I left school, dropped out of school, and was waiting to join college. Knew that I had a space in college, knew where I was going to college, so I was kind of having a few months out. I was in FOSS because my ma wouldn't let me just sit at home. But kind of knew what I wanted to do, was going to study art. That was it. And had always kind of been in love with art.
And this happened all after, like, that stabbing incident.
Well, it was all. This is all
This
kind
is
of
all merged
like a
in.
period of time maybe that made me change a little bit. I was just turned 16. I done my junior cert. This had happened to me. I then left school and was going to college, so I felt more like an adult. And then also at the age of 17, I got to get pregnant. I was about to become a father, and I was having a son. So this made me kind of the collection of all these things. One, with the stabbing, although it didn't cause me much physical damage, it caused me a lot of mental damage.
Yeah, the psychological side of that.
It caused me a lot of paranoia, a lot of aggression. Why me? I wasn't involved in it then, so I didn't really know why it happened. Although I kind of have an idea that there was an incident, kind of a few days before in Loughlinstown, where lads from town against Loughlinstown, and I think that it was just a retaliation, wrong place, wrong
just
time.
the wrong place, wrong time. But still, even if you know it was that,
But that's only later I realised that as well. That's only later I realised that. So yeah, so there was that and the build up of that. There was a hang around with a new group of friends. There was becoming a father. There was probably even like listening to the wrong music and things like that.
The age that you were at, like, the influence, the trauma, like you said, like, that I couldn't even imagine.
And so I dipped into the wrong things. I started experimenting with drugs. I started to sell drugs, and as soon as I started selling drugs, I wanted to like be the most extreme ways of doing it. So
you don't do anything half-assed.
Yeah, I was like making my own ecstasy tablets and like just way overboard. Could have taken so many people's lives, and just was wild and thought it was all fun and games, mate. Didn't really, you know what I mean? Watched too many movies and fucking.
Listen, coming from like a working class area
Some
in
of
Dublin,
my CBD.
Yeah, working class area in like Dublin, like nearly every young lad that I hung around with that I classed as friends have all dabbled in dealing at some point.
Yeah.
And some go to different extremes and stuff like that. So I'm not. I'm not like saying that that's a rational way to be, but like you can't say that it doesn't happen. It happens to nearly all the young lads I know.
Yeah, so I fell into it. At first it was a thrill. I was always an adrenaline junkie. My favourite bit was like collecting like large amounts of drugs and moving them, or firearms, or whatever the fuck you were having to grab to bring somewhere for someone or for yourself or whatever it was. The higher the risk, the more I was into it. Do you know what I mean? Like
you were seeking to thrill, like that's
it was. I
an
came from a
addiction
high.
in itself.
I was into. I ended up falling in with different types of crowds, having friends in all sorts of places, little groups in Crumlin, and had some friends in Clondalkin, and do you know what I mean? Would do little odd jobs and bounce about, and then I would do my own bits outside, which was nothing ever. Well, I suppose we got to a decent level, but nothing like worth making a movie about. Worth making a movie about. Like, now, the experiences though, what they done to me was they gave me more anxiety. I was already suffering with my mental health, and over years of partying and doing drugs, it deteriorated. I came to a place where I was so depressed that I was having anywhere between 10 and 15 panic attacks a day.
Okay, and what age are we like progressing up to here? Like, are we in?
This is in my 20s. Jesus, like a lot of it's a blur, except certain moments you kind of that are so traumatizing it's hard to forget what age you were. Do you know what I mean? So, like all the parties and all the sessions,
just
we're all
but
we're
then
all.
there's like these time
in my
slots.
early kind of 20s, like, and I then yeah, like things were just getting heavy and doing a lot of partying, in and out of depression, you know what I mean? But like living life, dabbling with art, whilst dabbling with the street life, and sometimes the art would get the better, and sometimes the street life, I'd be more
Like
into that. And
yin and yang, like
yeah,
almost
it
to
would
an
just
extent.
depend. Like it would just depend on the time, and I then like I suppose then I met Soph. I met Soph in my early 20s. Actually, I'll tell the story. Right, so I was seeing Soph, but we weren't like officially together or anything like that. And I was living in a music studio in Palmerstown. And we were all living there, working on stuff. I was doing loads of stuff with Winner, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
yeah, we were
you're
there.
in that environment, that like
Yeah.
artist environment where like
Yeah.
collaboration and ideas are just flowing.
So what happened was we ended up doing DMT. I don't know if anybody knows what DMT is, but if you know, you know.
I think it's like the, what is it like?
Well,
it's
DMT
not even,
is
it's not
basically,
even the drug. It's like the life force. Of
yeah,
life,
it's
or
like
whatever
DMT is
that
in every living thing. We have it. It's in our pineal gland. It's in all plants, all flowers, all trees,
Like
all
any
animals.
organism, I think.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
anything. Like we actually release it when we die. It gives us our flashback.
And when women give birth, there's a release of DMT as well.
Yeah,
That's what later on. Oh Jesus, I'm going off topic now, but that's what later on like makes them love to have children, even
Yeah,
though
again,
it's such
yeah.
a hard experience because the DMT is released. That's what type of drug
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Makes
So-
women want to be have pregnancies again.
yeah.
Go on.
So anyway, yeah, we was doing a DMT trip, and in the DMT trip, I met my daughter Bella, and she was 3. And I spoke to her in the DMT trip, and in the DMT trip, Bella told me that I had to get with Soph. So actually, me and Soph got together that night, and that's how we ended up together, like in a relationship. So we, we ended then. We had Belle, and when I had Belle, I think then I was kind of again more into art. I was in college. Soph was in college. I was doing like night courses. You know, I got educated. I done a DJing course, event management, and
Yeah, well,
music
do you know what?
production.
All through these times that like the craziness, the madness and stuff like that.
It was always
I will give you were always like almost tipping away at doing like, so you'd get involved in
Yeah.
things that you might not see it all the way through, but you were doing loads of different things on
Yeah.
the side because that's the creative side of you. So like you're giving compliment to
And the
like,
times I
madness
was,
and the goodness.
the times I was creative, I always was happier. That was the happier times in my life. You know what I mean? So there's no joke there. There's like. It's like when I look back now, it was clear and obvious where my bad patterns were, where we met how like my mental health can be bad anytime, but like you know, yeah,
It's the
just-
actions that you take place in those environments.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway, then I suppose then my late twenties is kind of when then it got really bad. It got really bad to the point where I had like little suicide attempts and things like that throughout my life, but I'm not to sound mad, nothing worth talking about. Do you know what I mean? Nothing worth talking about. No, I didn't die obviously because I'm here, and it didn't change me. It was insignificant. Do you know what I mean? Throughout the me being in that state of mind for as many years as I was in, that's a much more significant thing. You know what I mean? But I will tell you about one of the big ones. You know what I mean? But my late 20s, my mid to late 20s, I was focused on going back to work with kids. I wanted to, you know, keep them out of trouble, you know. And this is the weird thing about me was like that. I was either working on like keeping kids off the streets, or I was on the streets. Do you know what I mean? I knew it was like the worst thing, or I was doing it, and it was
But
like
you were almost, even though you couldn't stop yourself from doing it, you were almost trying to make sure that the others, like the youth, didn't. You were trying to put them on the right trajectory. if that
yeah,
makes sense.
trying to stop them
Like
from making the
almost-
same
yeah,
mistakes.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. The yin yang of these events is unreal.
Yeah, and as well, my friend Taz, it was always something. He had suffered a lot of abuse in his life, many forms. I have a lot of friends in my life that have suffered abuse, that have told me for the first time and things like that. And it's just something that people said that I would be good at. I've always been so close to all the kids in my life, and even kind of kids that don't know me take like a little shine into me. It's kind of a spoken out thing in my family or whatever. So I got out of the drug thing, and I was working. I was going to college. I was had set up my own business through the social welfare where I was going to go back and work with kids. They had sent me to college to do business management and that sort of thing.
Different level ups.
Yeah. We had to then put the plan through Southside Partnership, and they let you know if you can launch your business. I went through Southside Partnership, and they were actually so impressed with it that they hired me to do summer camps for them. So what had kind of happened was we were working on the summer camps. Just before the summer camps kicked off, I lost someone who was like a brother to me, which was Chris. I have Demi, his daughter, recording here. That was like a mad loss because it wasn't necessarily me worried about me. I was worried about my sister. I was worried about my niece. I was worried about so probably didn't deal with that correctly, and just plodded along. I suppose after he passed away, 4 weeks later, my sister had a stillborn in my house on the top of my stairs, but she nearly lost her life as well. And the baby passed away, obviously, and then there was a lot of that. I just remember actually.
He's got like hit multiple times.
Yeah, I remember actually. I've actually Demi and Sophie remember this. I remember planning for the baby to come home, Noel Jordan, and we were getting like, me and Demi were getting the sitting room ready, like for her little brother to come home to be laid out in a little casket while she was still grieving for her father, and I just remember thinking this is so weird and cruel. But yeah, that was a hard time, and that was also COVID had just hit, so it was a bit wild, and I was also about to launch these camps, and I remember they thought the camps might have to be online, and I shot a video for them as a promo the day of the funeral, just like to try and get my head into something. To try and get my head into something. And then with COVID, then there was no work, so drug dealing came back, drug taking escalated. I then figured out to stop me panic attacks, I could do like little bumps of cocaine, and it would take my panic attacks away from the day, which then escalated. And then there was more loss. I mean, I lost Jer, who like I don't want to claim as my loss because she has her own kids, but that at the time was so crucial in my life growing up. But I hadn't seen her much when she was sick, or like a little bit here and there, but felt guilty like I should have done more. And we even lost your man then, Jack. I had a period where I lived with her. And got really close to your man. It was just a hard time. People were fucking dropping like flies and things like that. And
I know. Like there was, like, just to put it into context, like I think there was a year of about over 3 or 4, or maybe 4 or 5 years, like between like I lost my ma, but in that, like in our like little circle of life, if you will, you used to have like 4 or 5, 6 events that were like tragic, like once in a lifetime events, if that makes sense, and you had just a conjoined bunch of them all at once. So that was when I seen you as a friend, when you were really struggling, like you said, like substance abuse, and just
depression from child trauma to then now trauma. So that was just getting, I suppose, like that's an accumulation of, like, again, when you're one person going out and having to do things, maybe whether that be violent things or to get out of bills or to whatever that may be. But if you're not naturally that person, later in life, as you're becoming a more spiritual person, a better person, those things affect you. That's what these young kids that go around with knives and things like that don't understand. That, like, to do these things, you have to be a certain type of person, and it's not. Sometimes the act of it itself is the easiest bit. It's the dealing with it later. Do you know what I mean? I still today suffer with nightmares and things like that. Still now, all sorts of like traumatized things, and have done counselling to help with it and do my own things that like stay close to God to help with it. But that's like kind of like people don't really understand. Maybe my mission is kind of like to keep kids away from drugs and the streets, but they don't understand that even regular use, like if you're like a certain type of person, drug psychosis can sink in quick, and paranoia, and like people don't understand that, like,
trying to advocate on, like, we need to be like smarter and look at this, like the early onset problems here affect people for the rest of their lives.
100%.
Like that's what you're advocating on. That's how's the head.
That's how's the head. That's kind of what it's about. So I I suppose maybe like was dabbling in selling all this, and I suppose it came to a head a few years ago, 2 years ago. Well, just under 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, we'll say, I was in a really bad state, and I was fucking using drugs regularly to deal with my mental health. I had ran up bills. I had, like, you know what I mean, lost my family, as in my girlfriend, like, just was done. You know what I mean? My kids were suffering, maybe without me being like mean. I never was mean to them or shouting at them or anything like that, but just I wasn't present, and just not having me there is enough. And you know, it just put me family through hell. Like, do you know what I mean? Just put me family through hell. Like, so much shame about it now. And
But like on the other side of reflection, like, is the recognition and the yes, like the shame that you attach to things, but then also the recognition of yourself, that you recognize that shame and you're trying to do better.
Yeah,
there's
like,
two sides to that side. Like, you have to accept to, like, move on and develop and not do that shit again.
Yeah,
do you know
100%.
That's what shame is essentially.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
something you don't like you're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like, I suppose I knew I wanted to finish. I knew I wanted to get out. You know what I mean? I had to lend some money to get out. You know what I mean? I had to put my family through hell. You know, even I remember to the point where, like, I was already suicidal, and like I just wanted to go and give my own life for the death. You know what I mean? And they were saying things to me to try and scare me, but there was nothing that could scare me at that time. Because, like, you know, they were trying to light me on fire or whatever, like, you know, but I was just like, do it, me. I felt like I deserved it. And I suppose we'll get into the fact that, you know, I really thought I deserved it. And I just remember one day my big sister crying in the house, like, and just so much shame, man, of what I put them through. Because I've always thought that I was smart. I always thought I was clever and intelligent, and I am. But, like, addiction's addiction. And if it's all you've ever known, it's so simple, like, you know, and it's just one of those things. And I pushed everybody away from me. I mean, I didn't even like me. I can't imagine they did. Even the ones that were trying to hang in there with me, like, you know what I mean? And I'm sure my ma's hated me at times, you know what I mean, for what I've put her through. I know my dad certainly fucking has, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's been a roller coaster. Yeah, it was a roller coaster. Anyway, things had gotten so bad in December. I think it was the 11th of December, 2022, 2023, 2022. And I had just decided that I was going to take my own life. I knew I was going to. I took my daughter out to see Sandy, and that's how I spent kind of my last few hours. That's what I wanted to do. And I ended up then going to the train station. It was the coldest night in Ireland for 30 years, they said. I had, like, a waterproof thing, that real thin one, not that you'd put over a hoodie for if it was raining, and like a t-shirt and a pair of pyjamas on. I didn't even know they were pyjamas. I thought they were tracksuit bottoms. I ended up trying train after train, just trying to suss out, you know what I mean, and just, I ended up then, it was the second last train. I'm afraid of heights, and I know this sounds mad because the platform isn't that high, but it was like the height of the platform that was stopping me. So I then decided that I needed to walk down the ramp into the darkness, and that's where I would just do it. So it was like halfway down, and yeah, I just remember thinking, right, this is it, and the train came, and I remember falling forward, and the train horn, I could hear the train horn, and I could feel the light coming towards me. I felt a big whack on my chest, and I just remember saying to myself, like, that's it now, it's done. You're, like, at peace, you're free, because I thought I was done. And I opened my eyes, and I was on the platform, and, like, the train driver was standing there, and he was talking to me, and I got up, and I didn't even say anything. I think I just walked off. Like, I'd say everybody was like, what the fuck? I walked off. A friend of mine lived behind the train station, and I got onto her balcony and was trying to knock in, but at this point I had hypothermia, so I was starting not to be able to bend me hands and me knuckles and stuff. I was palming the door, and there was no answer, and I could see through, like, a little peek in the window, and I could see our son playing PlayStation. I sat on the balcony, and I was starting to doze off, and I just knew if I fell asleep there I was going to die. and I was afraid that he would find me and I would scare him.
Mad.
And
You would
yeah,
scare him,
yeah,
Jesus. That's where you were at. It was like,
yeah. So
I don't even care about me
I
dying
just
here right
I
now.
care about
I
him
just can't
finding me.
let that young lad
Yeah,
see
man.
me,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I toppled over the balcony and walked home. But it took me about an hour to walk home because my knees couldn't really bend or anything like that.
Yeah,
And
that's like a walk. That's probably a 5 minute walk.
yeah, I then eventually got in. Me ma, my nephew was there. They were freaking out. I was in hypothermia. My ma was like, "We need to get you warm." She rang my friend Dan to come down. He lived close to help move me.
Yeah.
And they put me in a hot shower. And when someone has hypothermia, you're supposed to put them in a cold shower
And, like,
and
warm
gradually
them
heat
up.
it up, or
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really
Or
painful.
yeah,
It's like they've been
shock
stabbed.
to the body. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I was in the kind of shower. I was screaming and yeah, in a lot of pain. Get out of the shower. Just remember, like, pretending I was alright or whatever, and my adrenaline was high, and I couldn't sleep. It was on a Sunday night. I couldn't sleep, and then I ended up falling asleep on the Monday, like at midday, and was woke up then on the Tuesday to like the most haunting scream that I ever heard in my life. It was me ma, because my best friend was found dead, Taz. And yeah, he was across the road from me. I thought she was in the room with me. And I woke up and I jumped up and went to run out, and his brother was there in front of me crying, and it was just broke down. It was just a hard time. It was just a hard time. There was a lot of talk around it. There was newspapers showing up, and we had to get them away from the house, like vermins arriving, flies on shit, disgusting. Do you know what I mean? Family traumatized and making up stories and this and that, and just it was just it was tough, bro.
Chaotic time.
It was tough. I felt guilty because I didn't want to be alive, and he had lost his life, and he was also suffering from addiction. And I suppose then a day or two went by. I ended up having another suicide attempt where I OD'd. I was. Yeah, I'd locked my bedroom door, locked my window, I went taking something, and I was on the phone to my daughter, just hoping that I would just drift away into sleep, like, you know what I mean? And I don't know what happened. I think Sophie got freaked out and rang me ma or something, but the bedroom door was locked, and my brother Shane climbed on the roof and broke in my bedroom window, pulled the bedroom window door off, and yeah, got me sick and got me to the bathroom, and the medics came and stuff like that, and I was being a nuisance, didn't want to go to the hospital, yada yada yada. It was being a little bollocks, and my friend Shane Polton finally got me to go. Shout out to Shane. I haven't seen him in a while, but shout out to Shane. He seemed to be the only one that could get through to me at that time. For one reason or another, yeah.
Yeah, Shane's like a character with it.
Yeah, so I only went to the ambulance. I suppose I had a big conversation with the ambulance man, who he spoke to me about.
This is quite a pivotal moment.
Yeah, this is cool. Again, weird cool.
Yeah.
He asked me what I'd done. I told him I was an artist, and he was like, a painter, and I was like, yeah. He goes, it's a year to the day I found my wife hanging. She was a painter, and I was like, no way. And then he spoke to me about creative people and how they suffer with mental health, and this is where I got the idea for the podcast, was from this conversation with this ambulance man. And I want to go study it more. I want to do research. I want to bring all the facts back. But first of all, I just want to let everybody know who I am. So we ended up, we got to the hospital within a few minutes. I had escaped in my pajamas again, made it home. Then on the way into my house, I was called into my friend's house who passed away, and their family asked me to do his eulogy, and kind of that was when I decided maybe just to stay alive, at least to do that. So that was like, just gave me a little bit of purpose, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of purpose and
responsibility, like he was your man.
Yeah, that's it. And so the eulogy came around. I done the eulogy. It was a great success, a real honour and real privilege to get to do it. And his funeral was running a little bit late, and I ended up getting a standing ovation. And when I looked at the clock, it was 11:11, which is like my number. And
you're a big man on 11.
Yeah, I'm a big thing on numbers. I believe in numbers. I believe that they talk to you at the right time and try and tell you things. And
I think over the course of that, like I was there at that funeral, like that eulogy, I give testament to it. Like I still have many funerals to go to. I don't think I'll ever see or bear witness to like a eulogy like that. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Yeah.
That was if there was an Oscar award going for eulogies, bro. Trust me, that's gonna be my Oscar. Like that's gonna be the eulogy of my life. I'll be honest with you. I'm not nobody will compare to that.
Thank
So
you very much.
kudos to you on that.
So yeah, like
Kudos. What am I saying?
I was plotting on. I had a really deep conversation with my friend R. I suppose I felt I had survivor's guilt because I wanted to die and he had died, and I was wondering if it was him or me. If I had been gone, would he have been here? And that sort of thing. And everybody was kind of going, no, it's not connected. You know what I mean, and giving you the greeting card like conversations and things. And I just kind of pulled me aside. And he went, you know what? It probably was him or you, because that's the way life is. It's balanced like that. So it's you. You're here, so you have to make it worth it, and you have to.
He gave you a purpose.
Yeah, he's like, you have to make you being here worth him going. That's what happened. And so he had always asked me to work with kids. He had always asked me to bed me himself into art, and so that was kind of based off that conversation with art. That was like, right, he's correct. He's right. I'm obviously here for a reason. It has to be done. So do it how he asked you to do it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, so from that moment then I started planning the podcast. I got embedded into wanting to be sober and not kind of go out like him, and then knew kind of let's go back and work with the kids. But I was in a fragile state. I was only kind of getting sober. I was still in a suicidal state.
Yeah, you were only back from like the lowest point. I think, like in your lifetime.
Yeah,
and like to be able to sit here now, like to look at the timeline and the little progress every day.
Yeah, that's it. It's baby steps every day
that you have accomplished over the course of the last 2 years to the point where it's been in the planning, and here we are now, and that's only an accomplishment to the journeys that you've had in your life.
Yeah, so
where you're at now.
So yeah, that was it then, and 4 weeks after Wayne died, when I was going through this process, then we had another major loss in the family, which was my dad's girlfriend Trish, who was like so close to us all, and was like a much kinder, lovely, beautiful spirit than kind of anyone in their family. Do you know, like my family will laugh at that. They'll know what I mean. Like, we all have a nasty side, yin and yang sign, good, bad. The bad has good and the good has bad. She was just good on good. She was just good on good, like, you know what I mean? Like, Demi and Trish now, or Demi and Sophie now, and they're like verify that there. Like, she's just the most kindest, sweetest lady, like, and it was a huge loss. It was a huge loss to our family whilst we were grieving. And that's when my dad asked me would I go to a CA meeting, but I hadn't really planned on it before that. And my dad went to the wrong meeting, and a lovely girl there who he described to me with tattoos and piercings. No, like you, Kev. That's like, you know what I mean. That was his logic there. Like, people like you. Yeah, he thought he was going to an AA meeting, and it was a CA meeting, and he went to leave. This girl came after him, asked him to stay. He kind of said, "Jesus, this is lovely. I'd love if Kev would come here," and asked me, and he had helped me out of the hole. He had lent me money to get out of a hole, and even though I didn't want to, I felt like I owed him something.
There was like an obligation.
Yeah, not an obligation, but I just felt like I should, and it would help him, like, with his grieving process. Maybe if I was stressing him out less. Do you know what I mean? So I ended up, I went to the meeting, and actually I have to tell you, the day before the meeting, my friend Graham was on a stag, and he sent me a video of them playing naked golf on a stag. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you sending me that? You're on a stag, man. Don't you want to stay sober? And I was like, proper pissed off at Graham for it. You know what I mean? In me feels now. Proper like, fuck you. Like, and ended up going to the meeting the next day. And before the meeting starts, two lads walk in. It's the two lads playing naked golf in the video from the day before. One of them was doing the chair, and the other one was his best man. He sits down in the chair. He goes, "So I was playing naked golf yesterday on my stag. Never thought I'd be able to do something like that sober." And that was like the first spiritual experience where I was like, holy fuck, this is nuts. The chair was amazing. The meeting was amazing. The lads then mentioned, like, that when they wanted to get sober together, they used to watch The Sopranos every Saturday night. And when I got home from the meeting, the box sets of The Sopranos from my friend Taz was left on the table for me. And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? I was always kind of spiritual, but that's when I knew I was like, right, this is where I need to be now.
Yeah.
So went on with the meetings and got great help from the CA community. Like, I'd recommend it to anybody going through anything. My friend, I don't want to say her name just because I don't know. I'm gonna just call her Malt.
Yeah.
I was supposed to meet her for a meeting on a Sunday in Greystones, and when we had been texting back and forth, she was arranging me going to meetings, and I met other people then.
Because it's a support system.
Yeah, then she was like into poetry and stuff like that. And we used to text poetry back and forward and things like that, because I'm obviously into writing poetry and things like that. So, yeah, and I was supposed to meet her and a friend there who were going to a meeting. She was 19, her friend was 18, and they never showed up to meet me, and ended up getting home and getting news that they had committed suicide, the two of them. And it was just, yeah, she had obviously had a lot to do with abuse herself and things, and she was going through a court case at the time, and she was trying to get sober, and it was obviously ended up just being a little bit too much for her, you know what I mean? And yeah, that was
That's
it.
hard in like early sobriety, like.
But that's when, but I knew that, like, no matter what way my life went, I was gonna have to deal with this. It was go back to the streets and what I was doing, and I had already dealt with a lot of debt there. Or it was come to CA and probably be sober and probably lose a lot of friends there as well because of ins and outs of that life.
But you've had these spiritual moments that connect you.
Yeah,
Taz, and like that your entire, I suppose, like resurgence of energy to be like the best person that you can be, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
that's the way it is.
Even like,
but then you've had then moments where like. The average person would say, like, you know, it'd be alright if you fell off the wagon with these things, bro. Like, no, I know it's not alright.
No, they do, yeah, they do.
Like, you've had a lot of tests.
And like, as well, like, so, like, in early sobriety, you do have a lot of friends been like, oh, well, can you not just have one the odd time, man? Or, like, you just stop seeing friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, you come out of you just grow out of your life, and, you know, and it's just, but I had to do it for me and for my family. It was more important to me than anything. It was even, this sounds selfish, it was even more important to me than the friends that got me there. Because I had to just keep going, even if it meant leaving them behind, because it was what, and hopefully one day I get to help them the way that they helped me, you know what I mean? It's like another reason why I want to go back and study addiction and trauma counselling and things like that, and why I'm not finished like my education yet, you know what I mean? Even though I'm a teacher, you know what I mean? I still want to go back. I've still more to learn to help, but what I do know is enough to like start a podcast and spark some conversations and get other people talking about the things that we've been through in order to start getting the help, because it's a lot of males, it's a lot of creatives, do you know what I mean? It's a lot of us, and like this podcast is for everybody, women with hopefully children, although it's gonna get dark probably at times, about sense of humor and story wise. This has been a very serious podcast. I hope that like more will be much more lighthearted.
Well, I think like the podcast means so much to you. You've put so much work into it, so much thought, some of the guests that you have lined up, like it is a big part of representing you as a human being to the world. Like I think that you've put like a lot of your passion into this, and in that sense, like you have to lay it all out there on the first podcast.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's what like that's what you're doing in terms of like saying, this is where I come from. These are the conversations I want to have. This is the shit I've been through.
Yeah.
This is the journey I'm on, and I think I have a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
That I can give to the community.
100%, like
that. I think people will benefit from, and that's what we're trying to get involved, and that conversation around like I've got little tips and tricks
because
I've
been through a lot, and I have a whole life of education that might not be taught in a book, but in my experiences it works with the kids. I've had amazing experiences with Southside Partnership during their camps where you know what I mean, young kids that had been going to councils for years but wouldn't speak. After 20 minutes of speaking to me were telling me about their fucking self-harming scars. You know what I mean? I had 12-year-olds that were alcoholics that were coming to me to talk to me. I had kids that were painting masks to me and wearing it around. And even now with the kids that I work with now, they sing my name at the school when I'm walking through the school. And do you know what I mean? And
I think you give your heart and soul to the community. Like that's who you really are. And like
And not even the community, the kids.
You have a way with the children, like, and the children like it. They think you're cool. I think that's the main thing. They open up to you in a sense that, like, they recognize you. Yeah, like a lot of children, like, just see adults as adults.
And I suppose one thing, and again, right through every conversation, I want everybody to get a little gem off each guest. So yeah, like, I suppose the one thing that I learned from, like, both CA and working with the kids, that I kind of would like my little message to everybody that is going through something to be is, like, I've always had a why me attitude, you know what I mean? Throughout my childhood, when things bad happened to me, when teenage years, always why me, why do I always have to go through all these things? Why do my friends have to die? Why is it my stepmother has to pass away? Just why me always, you know? And the minute, like, I realised that I was going back to kind of work with kids and had to turn it around, I just got a realisation that everything that I had been through was now, like, my superpower. And what was my strength was all the stories and all the experience that I had in life from childhood to being an adult that made me have so much to teach these kids. And then, like, I realised that the worst thing that I ever had to go through, I had to go through it because it's what made me me. And I hope that everybody that's listening that is going through something or has went through something, if you understand that the thing that you've went through has, like, given you knowledge and depth, pressure makes diamonds, yeah, like, you know what I mean? And it's like Jordan Peterson says, like, to reach enlightenment, you first have to experience the darkness. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the lower you've been leaves potential for the higher you can go. Then that's what I feel, because that's balance. It has to be, everything has to be balanced. So
you can't, like, you can't have a trajectory up unless, like, you get a bit of, like, momentum with that.
Yeah, and I just hope that everybody that's listening, you know, throughout time gets to take what they've been through and the worst thing about themselves and use it as a tool to be great,
to be better,
to be great.
Do better.
Like, you know, and even, like, you know, if you've lost someone, when something bad happens to you later in life, you can go, well, I've lost the most important person to me, so I can beat it through this. And even in those little moments, that reference on it can just be so much to you, you know what I mean? And the thing that used to drown you can be your floating device, and that's, like the main point. That's, like, the main point is, like, fucking embrace your pain. Embrace all the worst things you've been through and fucking use it.
Like, there's an element of I epitomise this in my entire life.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, that's like...
I forgot about that about myself. I was like, James, I am the prime example of that.
One of the first things I used to say to you when we became friends was, like, you don't know how much you inspire me. And it was mostly with your dancing. It was like when I would see you out dancing in the wheelchair, I was like, that man just lives his life, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean I can't dance because I can't walk?
Okay, you know what?
And that's, like, such an expression to me. Like, it's such an expression. Like, although you go back, you're helping people that have had your accident, and you are, you know, in the rehabilitation centre where you're supposed to be, I feel, like, spiritually or whatever. And even though you do all this activism and all this, and you play your wheelchair sports, like, the greatest thing is just how freely you dance. It's just the biggest testament to people, other people in wheelchairs, if they want to be inspired. It should be on an advert.
Do you know there's a
video? It should be on an advert.
Remember I went on that Caribbean cruise, the tall ship, the, like, you know, Pirates to the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow ship in the Caribbean. We landed in, like, Antigua, one of the little islands in the Caribbean, and there was this, like, reggae joint with a stage at the back of it. Like an enclosed, like, almost like dome type thing.
Yeah.
Proper shanty town shit. 600 people in here having an absolute rave.
Yeah, I love it.
And anyway, I end up at the front, up near the stage, and I just look at two boys, and it's like incognizant they realise what I wanted, and before you knew it was up on the stage. Like, the stage was about yay high.
Yeah.
There was some woman absolutely belting out a tune, and I just went for it.
Come here, we obviously have to upload this footage. We have to, obviously we will... Footage will load in 3, 2, 1. Jack dancing on the stage. fucking love that.
Yeah,
I
okay,
love
that's a
that.
clip.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, right. But yeah, that's what you're saying. You're trying to give
Yeah,
your little tips and
yeah,
tricks. That's me, I suppose. My lifestyle epitomizes
yeah.
that entire like
100%.
fucking
So
why me type attitude and the opposite of that.
yeah,
Um,
and that's it. That's why hopefully we'll do your story. Some other people that we look up to. I would love to get Turlock Walsh on here. He runs a local toy boxing gym. He has champions, but they're homeless and the team needs a place. We have an abandoned building right across from where I live that just sits there doing nothing. And he needs to get it because the work that he does. I've trained with him when I was in a low point. Him and Linda like have helped me so much as well. So like they deserve it. They deserve a spot because they're gonna help so many kids in my area. So that's something that they're gonna come on. We're gonna fight for that. I'm gonna round up as much like energy towards that as we can. First guest Sean Turner. We're gonna have him on. Controversial character, loads to talk about. Absolutely loads to talk about.
looking forward to Sean, to be
yeah.
honest with you, because I know Sean. I know, like, I don't know Sean like you know Sean, but Sean
Yeah.
is a notorious character.
Yeah, he's a
around the
notorious
area.
character. We're going to have my friend Kaylee Glynn on now next week as well. She just opened up for Belters Only and Jazzy. You just need to get onto her, follow her, get all her music. We're going to have her coach and teacher, Pierce Rooney, who's another idol of mine. I hope Pierce comes on. He works with disabled kids, teaching them DJing and teaching them music. Autistic kids, like his work is iconic in Ringsend. It's hard to get him out of Ringsend though. But I hope he comes. And we're going to talk to a friend of mine, Craig Bourne, who is in recovery and has changed his life around. Who's just a cool motherfucker. He's going to talk to us about how he deals with his shit, and we'll get lots of lessons off him. And yeah, we're going to talk to as many people as we possibly can. So yeah, we hope you tune in. From me and Jack, we'll see you soon. And yeah, that's it. Like, subscribe, and share, motherfuckers.
I knew you were gonna drop that at the end.